Yeah, I think that looks good. Awesome. All right. We're back here.
We're back.
Back and
We're
better than
back,
ever.
back.
I feel like
I have a comfy pillow.
did we coordinate this maroon, this shirt and we are coordinating. And we're in new chairs with a
Not
new
even on purpose, though, to
not
be
even on purpose.
honest.
Yeah.
Even though I did see you before you left this morning, but I wasn't dressed yet, and maybe it was an unconscious thing.
There we go.
Yeah.
And now we're in much more comfortable.
Oh, the comfort.
It's all about the chair.
All about the chair.
I think if people don't know this, we rate the restaurant based off of the chair.
I think we mentioned this in another earlier podcast.
It's that important. That we're going to bring it up twice.
Yeah, and the lumbar, like for me, this couch is very comfortable, but I need.
It's a little bit more support.
I need a little.
Well, you always have to have room for upgrades.
It's true.
Yeah.
Which we do love upgrades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the restaurant's a good chair. You need to have good food too, but you could slack
if you have like okay food.
Yeah.
We would frequent it more.
Yeah. If it's a full arms are
a must.
A must, and then a nice back support. These nonsense
all about the
chairs
back. with just the seat, the bar stool with just the seat.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No.
I'd rather sit on the floor.
We'll leave. We're gonna leave if there's no back support on a stool. Forget it.
No, and don't put the ones. All right. What is the worst stool? It's the one that's the wood, flat wood.
Yeah.
And nothing. We've seen those recently. I don't know where, but clearly we didn't go there.
As you're walking towards that, you need to be booking your massage for the next day.
100%.
The chiropractor. Just lay on the floor.
Shout out to Cassie. Like we're going. Yeah. Just sign us up.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Let's.
So what are we here for?
All right. So today we had thought about talking about just the overall health in a home, and what does it mean to have a home that is doing well and the home is healthy, but also the pets that are in it.
And I think when it comes to the feeling and the feeling of a home and when you're in an industry like yourself and myself, like we're in a lot of people's homes.
Yeah.
Most people they go to their family,
right.
Maybe they're in one or two homes,
and then they watch it on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're, when we're busy, we could be in multiple homes each week.
Sometimes in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like we walk in and it's just like people don't realize you walk in and there's a feeling and there's, it can feel, unhealthy just by walking in.
Yep.
And there's a lot of factors from that. And I was actually just watching a Facebook video and I was like, wow, this is perfect. And I'll talk about it a little bit later on with air exchangers, but it's a big thing.
It is a big thing. It's funny because when I, whether it's the buyer list side, there's a lot of times where I am so sensitive to mold. And my clients, I'm like a bloodhound in that way and it could be moisture, it could be the beginnings, it could be, I don't need to see it, I can smell it. And again, we talk about this frequently, but price point doesn't matter when it comes to the air quality, the health of a home. It's, sometimes you could smell it, sometimes you could taste it. But that's a big one. Mold, mildew can be in a home, interior and exterior of a home.
And I love what you're saying, the price point, because it's, a lot of times it's bad air quality in these second homes.
Yeah.
That are, they're not, the air isn't circulating enough.
Right.
And it's funny because, you have all these old, medical treatments or whatever you want to call it, but like, that we think are out of date. Like if you're sick, like just go to the beach and get some sunshine and some
Yeah,
fresh air.
right.
And it's like your house kind of needs that too.
Well, yeah, we're in a weird day today, which I'm so thankful for. I'm in a dress with bare legs. It's beautiful out.
Summer.
It's 50 degrees in Connecticut in the end of January.
Yeah.
Like, how beautiful is
Yeah.
it today? Well, right before I left, I popped some up, not crazy open. I cracked some of our windows because getting that fresh air when you can is wonderful and beautiful. But the other thing in terms of, secondary homes, I think there's a lot of concern and misinformation about humidity, because a home needs to have humidity, right? We've all had that feeling when you have the static, your hair stands up, you are shocking, like
you wake up, you got dry
mouth,
Yeah.
like there's so much. So you have to have humidity in a home. And as well as like making sure your HVAC system is filtered properly, right? So the particulates are being sucked out of the air that shouldn't be in there.
Or if, talking about the humidity, you have that the whole house humidifier, if you have an HVAC and it's all full of mold.
It's full of mold.
And you're not cleaning that filter, because that's a whole other filter too. But I love what you said too, because we want to talk about easy fix is like where you open up the window today. And, we have a little bit of a practice of, when we change our bed, the windows come open.
Yeah.
We change the sheets. If it's a nice day, or even if it's, as long as it's not raining,
right,
we take the comforter and the pillows, we put them outside.
It doesn't matter, even in the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it aired out.
Yeah.
And then it's so nice to sleep, because it's just like, it's nature's way of like purifying and like regenerating.
Yeah.
And when it's sunny out, it's like on steroids.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but don't be afraid to, well, number one, even if it's just a little bit, especially on a day like today, I understand when it's -7, I wouldn't either, to be honest. Change bed day or not, -7, you're not opening your window, But today, a day like today is gorgeous. Not only let's as humans get outside, but again, circulate that and get some fresh air in.
And here's, people are like, oh, well, it's when it's cold, we don't want to do that, we lose the heat, the heating bill's gonna be through the roof. They've done a lot of more research on like your refrigerators, and the data's out to say, listen, you can open your refrigerator a lot or leave it open, and that doesn't really cause a loss of the coolness. It's actually when the biggest thing in a refrigerator is when you bring in all the shopping items and you put it in the fridge, and it has to get all the contents cooled down or frozen. And so that's what it is. So opening up your house for a half hour, 15 minutes in the middle of the winter.
Not even like 10 minutes is enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Get all that stale, unhealthy air out, and open up your blinds.
Yeah, let the sun in.
Let the sun in.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's part of our experience. When you walk into a nice ventilated, bright house, it's an automatic mood lifter. Let alone, the health aside, it's just a mood lifter when something is nice, there's nice light coming in.
Bright and airy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you're thinking about how you feel in a home physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, right? There's so much that plays into it. Right. One is what is actually happening with the mechanics of the home. Is there moisture? Is there mildew that is growing and left unattended? And then the other thing is the feeling that the house elicits. And most of the time, those two go together. Not always, I know I could speak for you. Sometimes you go into a home and upstairs is feeling good and there's a, decent vibe, a good vibe. And then you go downstairs and it's a whole different story. Not common, but it does happen where, it just is a different picture. The upstairs might have been remodeled, refreshed. Downstairs could be still a dirt basement. Right. We live in Connecticut. Yeah. There's a lot of older homes. And that's not to say a dirt basement can't feel okay and be all right, but the moisture tends to be higher,
And it's really the, all of that in the building side of it. It just needs to have some sort of air exchange. And what we've, in some ways that's difficult in basements because basements are cold. And if you bring in warm, high humidity air, you end up condensating everything over the basement. So it's actually very tricky to actually do this. And what we're seeing now in remodeling is, and just new construction is, we have been going after energy efficiency for the last 10 or 15 years, and houses have gotten tighter and tighter and tighter. And when, back in the day, your air exchange of your house might be, meaning like all the air in your house, like
the turnover, like our bodies, our cell turnover.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
In a house could be multiple times, meaning all of the air in that house is being recirculated every hour.
Right.
And older homes without any insulation, it could be every half hour.
Right. Yeah. Which is right.
But in reality, like your heating and cooling bill was high, but it was healthier.
Right.
Because that fresh air. So as we've added insulation,
especially that spray foam, that
spray,
super
it's getting tighter and tighter. The new windows, well, I got new energy efficiency windows. Well, that's not allowing that air exchange. So now the stale air might be circulating every 3 or 4 times a day instead of hour.
Right.
And you're sitting in, more carbon monoxide.
Yep.
And now it's also keeping everything in. It also can keep the humidity in. So if you don't have a dehumidifier, that tight house is going to keep, and then that's when your mold is coming.
And so 2 points that you just triggered for me is, one, I've been into a lot of houses, particularly houses that I know the people who live in there, and I look in their dehumidifiers and they're full of mold, full of mold. And, that's pro tip.
And you're hoping like it's somewhat hard pipe so that it's just not like,
and it's not,
it hasn't been emptied in months and now it's growing. It's a cesspool.
It's a cesspool.
Yeah. Don't have a humidifier unless you hardwire it, hard pipe it out so that it continually uses, because you just bought a humidifier and it just took out
a dehumidifier.
The dehumidifier.
Yeah.
You just took out a little bit of the moisture for about 27 minutes and now it's just sitting there.
Yeah. And it's making it a lot worse. Right, I can promise you that, because and there's certain rules and restrictions. That's another pro tip about how to get rid of some of this excess water, right?
Right.
When we're going to inspections, there's rules about where you could dump, how to dump. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that, but just realize that, more and more times during inspection, things get flagged between dehumidifiers, sometimes washing machines, of dry wells, things like that. So I don't want to but it's something to be mindful of. So don't just dump it willy-nilly. Understand what you're doing and the implications of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, a perfect example. I mean, we've seen this where you have the dehumidifier and then it's got like a little hose that goes to a hole right next to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like the water cycle
right
there.
Literally.
It's just kind of going around.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think people are understanding the point.
Yeah.
Dehumidifier, if you're not really religiously emptying it,
diligent.
it's not doing it.
No. And again, it could be,
you can just hard pipe it so that it runs continuously.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing that it triggered your earlier point for me is that the advent of the DIY with insulation. People are going in, particularly their attics, and they themselves are taking the batting, or you could get kits where you could like sort of rent something to spray foam. Well, what's happening is that they're inadvertently spray foaming everything they see. Well, what happens? You're causing a ton of more issues because you're more than likely blocking vents.
I love that, and that's a good point, because what I don't think a lot of people would realize is that your attic has to be vented properly. And I love how this is just kind of like, you know, unfolding, because it's like, again, we need airflow, even in the attic, even in the basement, all throughout the home. So what typically you have in your attic is you have soffit vents, which is along the edge of your roof, kind of where your gutters are, and then you're going to have a ridge vent, and that pulls in air up and goes out the peak of your roof, and that ends up, you know, pulling out all of that humidity, all of that air, so it's creating that air. And when people just go in there, you know, the spray foam or blown in insulation, you can get that stuff from, you know, you can get the machine from Home Depot.
You could rent it by the hour, by the day.
They go in there willy-nilly, start blowing all insulation, all the vents get blocked.
Yeah.
And then you go up there and you're like, well, why is there all mold on the underneath of my roof? And listen, you know, you did it in for a good, you know, you were doing it for a good cause, but you actually created even more of a problem.
Way more of a problem. Now, all of that needs to be taken out, and depending on the damage, right?
And it's tough to get mold out of an attic. There's, you know, there's dry, there's a couple different, I can't think of it right now, but
like products.
There's some products, but then,
yeah.
it's kind of like a sandblasting. You really, I mean, because when it gets into that plywood underneath the roof, it's really hard to get out. So,
yeah, and you don't want to mess with that kind of thing in terms of doing it half.
Yeah, you don't, and also you're gonna go up there, you're gonna be fiddling around. I know you're not putting the right mask on.
Well,
and now all of a sudden you're like, oh, honey, I'm not feeling so well, and you're like, yeah, because you just breathe a bunch of mold for hours.
I'll tell you, I've gone into houses where obviously I, you know, wasn't aware. Sometimes I don't think people are always aware.
You get used to the home.
Oh.
You get used to the feeling. You get used to it if it's unhealthy.
And then you just are, I can't imagine that you're not feeling your best, but you have to be sick a lot. You have to be. And whether that is presented as like full-blown illness, but I leave there and from like, I've made a rule about it. Like if I know or have like, if somebody verbally, if it's a busy, you know, home that people are in and out and they say something to me, number one, I have a mask. Number two, I'm like, I won't put my health at risk. It's that serious. It is absolutely that serious.
And then, you know, you go home and you got to take your vitamins and everything else, get your immune system back up. and honestly, and I, you know, it ends up turning into chronic illnesses. And what people don't realize is a lot of the stuff that larger ailments is like, hey, I didn't live in a healthy home for a long period of time, and now I've got some more severe things. I do want to touch on this also is that because mold is obviously something that is created by not having the airflow, and not, you know, and having everything too tight and not opening things up. But there is something else that is actually more that we don't is like, I don't think people realize, and it's been changing, and what we're talking about is off-gassing. And again, this is
a big one.
This is huge, and obviously we've caught stuff like there's been a lot of products from China that have come that has been shown to off-gas lots of formaldehyde.
Yeah.
The drywall was a big thing,
Yep.
and it was stopped.
Yep.
But we know regulation only stops 1% of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, everyone, I love the new car smell. Yeah, you love all the chemicals. You love all the chemicals that you're breathing in. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
So what's been big and go ahead.
No, I was about to say the same thing. Go ahead.
The biggest thing, and they're really working for this, and when you go get new carpet, you really need to talk to a professional, because a lot of carpets, you walk in and you smell that new carpet smell.
Yeah.
It's not good for you.
Yeah.
And again, the quick solution is open your windows, but obviously that only helps so much. You need to pick your building materials, carefully.
Well, and this is just to go along with like so many things, right? There's a whole movement that, like, I don't know if people have seen the signs of we're not growing grass, we're growing it, wild flowers, and to help support bees and other insects and animals and things like that. So it's a whole movement, right? Being more mindful, which we are very into, right? And everybody has their level of steps.
Right. We've got the clover in the yard.
Yeah. But I was just talked to friends and clients about this, and she was talking about how she's getting into canning, and and everybody has their different levels. But with one of the clearest examples for me is paint and polyurethane, the wood floors. If anybody has ever tried to live in their home after what is the rule? 3 days, they say. I don't know if that's a steadfast rule after the final coat or whatever.
Right.
There's no way. We've done it. We've lived in it.
Yeah. That
got shut down so incredibly quickly because those fumes were so
bad.
Horrible. And in I don't even. Do you know if there's an alternative yet?
So they've gotten better with it. And what you're seeing now is most paints have low VOCs.
Right.
And that's kind of been becoming more of a standard.
Yeah.
But it's just low.
Right.
It's not
it
no.
Means no.
It's not no.
Right.
So like the polyurethanes are now more water based. The oil base was and it was more durable. But now, but still, you're absolutely right. Like that stuff is, that's a big deal, refinishing your floors. And that's why we've seen, movement to more of pre-finished, which is helpful. It doesn't look as nice.
Yeah.
But with saying that, you still, I think, when you're talking about canning, which is interesting, the plastics, because people don't necessarily want to use plastic in their food.
Yeah.
Or, water bottles, people don't want to use the plastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, for recycle reasons and saving the planet, that's a whole other side. It's just you don't want that leaching of the plastics into your body.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with building materials. And I'm interested to having no data, and this is not saying anything, but I'm interested to see what all of these plastics that we've put into our home now, if there is leaching. A lot of these vinyl flooring are all these composite plastics.
Decking.
And the decking.
That's getting warm and we're walking on it.
Right, exactly. And what are you absorbing? I mean, they found that a lot in a lot of clothing, a lot of, women's clothing that, the yoga pants and stuff, you're absorbing it into your skin.
It's all around. Actually, that same client, shout out, was talking about how they wanted to do research about the microplastics, but they couldn't find a control group. Right. Think about that.
That means like babies. Everybody has it.
Not even every single human being on this planet is. And again, it's we all have to pick our battles, right? Like the same things we're talking about, we have in our home. Right. We've had our floors polyed, we've had painting. Let's right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, you're not
it's
getting away from it.
no. It's movement though, and it starts from roofing down,
Right.
right? What you choose for insulation, painting, and there's other materials too. Am I wrong with drywall? Isn't there like different
Stuff is coming and going. I mean, there's more like insulation, fiberglass.
insulation?
Insulation was a big
Gotcha.
deal, and that's
Yeah.
still kind of out there where people want to, use denim or different natural
Oh,
materials to put in your walls because
Interesting.
we just don't know the transfer.
right.
What's being transferred out, and there's the age old ones of asbestos that's been
Oh,
around.
yeah.
And that's in a lot of glues.
Yep.
So it's in flooring. That's actually in drywall too. But yeah, it's in insulation, and it gets carried with it gets carried with the air.
It's the particulates. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily all the stuff, well, we need to go natural because, we can label radon,
It's natural.
gluten-free and organic. Because it is natural, and believe it or not,
It's true.
you can get radon off of your granite countertops at very small levels.
Well, no, you make a good point too. That there's memes in different videos like, well, back in the day, they no one had such and such poisoning from this thing, and well, yeah, but they were also dying at 10 because they were malnourished.
Right.
Let's be clear that there is a balance in society that, the advent of plastics helped us thrive and
100%,
develop in ways that, no one could even imagine.
Oh, we live much longer. We have such a better, higher standard of life.
Yeah. So there is that. But again, getting from like the basic level of like, all right, what is the humidity level in my home?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's such a basic start there.
Right.
Is my attic properly vented?
Right.
Am I changing filters that need to be changed?
Mm-hmm.
We touched on this one as well in a different earlier podcast. And from there, am I educated and understanding when I'm picking things out, whether I'm hiring somebody or I'm doing it myself? Is these the materials I want to introduce? Just being more mindful, and make the decision. And listen, marketing is a blessing and a curse because there's a lot of buzzwords, a lot of things that try to trick people into thinking that it's one thing when it's not. And frankly, it's also a financial decision. A lot of the things that are innovative and new are going to cost a whole heck of a lot more, even though it's green and a bit healthier.
And the stuff that a lot of like plastic water bottles are really convenient, and it's a lot harder to bring your own water bottle. It's much easier to grab, so it's convenience. It's cheap. It's so that's the thing. But I think if anyone were to take anything away, just open your windows occasionally in the wintertime, because that's what it is, like, because that's where you see it the most. Is you're not going to open up, and you occasionally open the door maybe once a day to come and go. It's
yes. No, I'm just laughing because you're right. But also, take a look at your dehumidifier. That would be mine.
Yeah.
That would be mine. If you don't have I would say turn it off and figure out a way. There's other products too that can remove humidity from the air that can be like somewhat effective. But if you can't make it so it's always draining, and you're you're still checking to make sure that there's not mold growth in there, I don't think it matters. I think that there's more of a chance when it's sitting, of course.
And I know I talked about this, and we're kind of running up on the end here, so I wanna I talked about air exchangers, and I think that if your home was built in the last 10 years, because we're starting to see an air exchanger is going to be part code for any new homes.
Okay.
But there is that lag time when they're like, oh, wow, we just messed up a whole decade of not doing it. And we
Right.
find that all the time in building where it's like, ooh, now that we have the data of what we actually
Yeah,
did,
now it's a mandate.
we need to change how we do it. So if your home was built in, the last 15 or 10 years and you don't have an air exchanger and you have some sort of energy efficiency going on in your home, you need to get it is this, it's kind of like an appliance, and it goes in your home and it exchanges the air.
Where will it go?
It will go in the basement. You hope, they're still having better methods for retrofitting this. Obviously, if new homes, it's the easiest way to do it. But what it does is it exchanges the air with the outside. But the way it does it is that you don't lose any cooling or heating.
Okay.
So, for the listeners, just do air exchanger. You can read all about it. But that's something,
or if you're going to upgrade
right,
your system, right, that'll be an automatic.
Right.
Am I right?
It's kind of, you can, there's a bunch of different products. So I don't want to get into that, but it's something that you can put in older houses.
Okay.
But if you have a newer house, your newer house is way tighter than an old house. If you got a 1900 house, you're fine. There's no mold in those. It's just the air is just whistling through.
Whistling through.
Yeah.
Unless you have a leak and let's
for
not
sure.
say
for
you
sure.
don't have mold.
Because, but you're not going to have as much of an issue than these new McMansions that are in the developments that they built really tight in the 2000s, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any kind of air exchange.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good info.
Love that
for us.
Yeah.
And I love our new setup. I'm so comfy.
I'm comfortable. I'm ready to rock and roll. Like another hour.
I could really kick my heels up right now. And
yeah. Like, what's the next topic?
I don't. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. So awesome.
Love it.
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in, listening,
as always.
Yeah. On to the
Till
next
next time.
To the next time.
Yeah.